Good morning, everybody. Welcome to KRON 4 News Weekend. Happy Mother's Day. I'm Marty Gonzalez. And when we come back on KRON 4 News Weekend, we'll take an in-depth look at the human papillomavirus that's known as HPV. It's the virus that causes cervical cancer. Isabel Duran talks to one of California's leading pathologists. Experts say early detection of cancerous cells is a key to surviving that disease. Researchers know the sexually transmitted human papillomavirus, or HPV, is one cause of cervical cancer. Isabel Duran sat down with one of California's leading experts to talk about the dangers of HPV and the vaccine to help prevent it.
We'd like to welcome Dr. John Campagno. He's the medical director of West Coast Pathology Laboratories in Hercules, California. He's the leading expert in the state on the human papillomavirus, known as HPV, and herpes testing. Welcome, Dr. Campagno. Nice to have you with us. Well, we know that the rate of cervical cancer deaths was cut by almost 70%. This caused, of course, by strains of the HPV virus. Since the mid-1950s, when the Pap smear was introduced and early detected. Yet the human papillomavirus, not all that uncommon amongst us. What, about a quarter of girls and women between the ages of 14 and 59 have this virus, walk around with this virus. So let's start with the basics. How do we get it?
Well, it's probably best described as a sexually transmitted virus. I think that's a reasonable position to take, although it's so ubiquitous that it's difficult for me to actually assign that kind of sort of judgmental commentary on it. But basically, it's transmitted sexually among us. And even in the birth canal at birth, I mean, that's considered a sexual transmission, actually, if we want to be precise.
Okay. So what causes this virus to become cancerous? Give us a little primer on all of that.
Well, to be precise, it really doesn't cause cancer directly. It probably enables cancer to develop. The virus is a very smart virus. It controls, when it becomes integrated into the cell, it controls the ability of the cell to duplicate, creates an immortal cell. And at the same time, it controls the ability of the cell to repair its own DNA misconstructions, and also to kill itself. Occasionally, we're programmed, actually internally, the cells to either kill itself or to repair the DNA and control the division, because our cells divide depending on where they are. The virus, very smart.
So, and very smart in that there are a number of strains. And
many strains that do more or less do the same thing, but some viruses are more efficient than others, more, quote, oncogenic than others. That is, they cause tumors more efficiently. The classic example is virus number 16, which is part of the current vaccine. It's very efficient at creating this environment in which it controls the cell cycle. So if you create immortal cells and create an environment in which the cell can't repair itself, it can then receive other mutations, other oncogenic changes, other things that might result in malignancies. That's why so many individuals have the virus but don't have cancer.
And we mentioned that the Pap test is what has screened for these viruses, and through early detection has been able to, of course, reduce the amount of cervical cancer. Now they've introduced this new HPV vaccine, and it's been very controversial, both because they wanted to give it to young girls as a preventative, but they talk about, because this is a sexually transmitted disease, some parents worry it's implying, you know, having sex as a result of now having this preventative. But word just came out, it may not be as effective as everybody had touted it to be.
Well, it's effective as a vaccine. If effective means preventing cervical cancer, that takes on a different meaning. As a vaccine, it's effective for what it was designed to do, that is, prevent the infection of human papillomavirus number 16 and 18, and also 6 and 11. Those latter two are low-risk viruses associated with warts. However, for the prevention of cervical cancer, we have to realize that there are other human papillomaviruses that are also oncogenic and can result in malignancies. And we know that because we found those other viruses in malignancies. It's just that 16 is the most commonly found in cervical cancer. I think the message is that, yes, it works as a vaccine. Yes, it'll prevent malignancies caused by number 16 if that individual has not been previously exposed. However, it will not protect that individual from other human papillomaviruses.
Which means which means that one should continue with checkups?
Absolutely, absolutely. One also has to realize that just because one is human papillomavirus negative in our testing does not mean that they would not necessarily have changes in their cervix associated with either precancerous changes or malignancies. That's why the pap smear is so important to retain, because there's some movement to eliminate pap smear screening and replace it with human papillomavirus testing. The two together are far better than either one alone, and certainly pap smear screening, that is the cytology, is extremely important to perform, because the virus, as I said, was very intelligent virus, and consequently will, as it integrates into the human genome, its changes result in our inability to be able to detect it. So someone might be, quote, human papillomavirus negative, and yet result in changes in the cervix.
We've got to wrap, but one last thing, because a lot of parents out there wondering, and this desire perhaps to make all girls between 11 and 12, mandate them to get this. Should parents say no, yes, be concerned, wait? What do you think?
Well, I'm a parent, and I am in favor of vaccinations. I think they save lives. And in this situation, I think it's a vaccine that actually works. However, I am very cautious in explaining that it doesn't eliminate the potential for malignancies, but it certainly decreases it, especially with regard to number 16.
And of course, there'll be more discoveries to be made about and more research. So thank you very much. I wish we could talk about this a little longer, but thank you, Dr. John Compagno, for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And you can find more information on his website. I think we had that up. Doctor, you want to repeat it for me?
It's WCPL.com.
Very good. Thank you. We'll get more information there.
Thank you.
Marty?
All right. Thanks, Isabel.